Hello and welcome back to Pilates with Marilyn. My name is Marilyn Harder. I'm a Pilates instructor and Pilates master trainer. Today we are going to build upon the foundations we learned last week. So I want you to remember that any sort of fitness journey is one of self-exploration. So I want you to start to listen to your body, see what feels good and ready, and pause in those moments that don't quite feel right or connected. In the process of Pilates, the goal is to find a deep connection with all corners of yourself, feel where your bones are in space, and then feel those muscles connect them there. So if anything feels sharp, stabbing, shooting, maybe odd or not quite right, that's when we stop and we back up into something that felt a little bit better for your body. So remember, this is a journey and an exploration, not a workout. So I want you to do it with curiosity and connection. So just like last week, you can grab washcloths and we can use those in what I'm going to call going forward supported neutral. So we can use those underneath our low back or underneath the ribs when we're lying on our back, or on our side. We can fold them up and we can prop them under the rib or the hip for better alignment. So today we're going to take some progressions from what we started last week. So just as last week, I'm going to have you guys lay down and we're going to start with our breathing exercises. If you already know supported neutral is for you, you can grab those washcloths and bring them underneath, right where that natural curvature is, right where the rib cage would meet the floor, and meet your body where it's at today. All right, so I'm going to flip my palms up towards the ceiling and just sort of settle my body in space. You want to have some length through your spine, so I like to kind of walk my shoulders away from my hips, lengthen through the neck, and then just relax and notice how my body feels. As you're here, I want you to flip your palms up towards the ceiling and make sure that your shoulder blades have shimmied back and down your back. And then we're going to use that with our breathing to find the connection of the upper transverse abdominis, which is our natural corset around the midsection. So we're going to start with a big inhale in through the nose. Feel those ribs expand out to the side and back into the ground. And exhale, blow out 1,000 birthday candles. Feel that corset wrap around the midsection and cinch tighter. And let's go again. Big inhale in through the nose. And exhale, blow out all of that air. Keep blowing till there's that last ornery birthday candle goes out, and notice that natural tightening sensation. That's what I want you to go for. We'll go one more. This time we're going to sigh like an annoyed teenager. Big inhale in through the nose. And exhale, blow out all that air. Not getting mom's attention, keep sighing. And notice which of the two breaths work best for you. All right, if you're feeling any strain or stress in the rib cage or in the neck, this is when you would want to bring that washcloth underneath in supported neutral. All right, let's bring our hands into a diamond, thumbs underneath that belly button. And we're going to exhale again, your favorite exhale. Roll that marble towards the belly button, following the natural curvature of the pelvis. And inhale, roll that marble towards the pubic bone and slightly beyond if that feels right to you. And if you are like, ooh, what's a pubic bone, Marilyn? Remember, the heels of your hands are on those hips and your fingertips rest at the bottom in like a triangle pattern, and where those fingers rest is that pubic bone. All right, one more. Pause when the marble has been rolled to our belly button. All right, just like last time, we're going to move into some marches. I'm going to press the palms down into the earth and feel those triceps fire. Feel that rib cage draw together and down to the floor. The marble is rolled into the belly button. And I'm going to draw one knee up into a tabletop, trying to use the glute, which is our buns, to lift, and the deep lower abdominals, and tap it down. And alternate. This is going to be our warm-up series. I'm only going to do 2 of these from the march, so if you're ready, we can progress up to tabletop from the top. Now, last march, I'm going to leave my shin up there, parallel with the ceiling, draw the other knee up to meet it. Now, I want you to take a moment, exhale, try and push those knees just 1 inch away till you feel that deep loading in through the core, but no loading into your low back. If you feel any loading or discomfort, this is where you would tuck that washcloth underneath that low back. Even while maintaining tabletop and breathing, you should feel a lot of really good work through that core. All right, make sure the seat is on, glutes are fired, and we're gonna hinge at one leg, tap it down to the floor. Remember, don't launch off that floor or even touch. Scoop back up with those abdominals and draw it back up to the top. Now, if we're not connected, this work can translate into places we don't want to feel. I don't want you to feel it in your low back, spasms under your rib cage, or translation into the back of the neck right at the base of the skull. If you're feeling those spaces, tuck those 2 washcloths underneath into that supported neutral and build up strength from there. We'll go ahead and go last one each way. And then once you're even from right to left, this is even for me, you're going to put 1 foot down and then the other. All right, so you can continue with those toe taps if chest lift is not for you. Otherwise, bring your hands behind your head, cradle that head, shoulders draw back and down. Now those elbows should be in your peripheral vision. Take a big inhale in. Now exhale, I want you to keep that imaginary marble balancing on that low middle belly and not rolled into your belly button, and you're going to lever up from the rib cage. Pause, take a look at those knees. You want to make sure you're not tucking the chin all the way to the chest. You want to have a space like a small peach. You can even check with your fist, and you want to draw the chin backwards to activate the deep neck flexors. And then we're going to go ahead and lower it back down. Notice, do you have a small space underneath the low back? I like to say a blueberry lives there, a small plump blueberry. So let's exhale, let's chest lift up. Draw in that double chin, shoulders back and down. And then lower back down. Pick your favorite exhale. Remember from last time, we want to try and flatten that belly, chest lift up. Now, flattening the belly is not an aesthetic flattening of the belly, it's a feeling. So I want you to hold it up here on this one. Big inhale through the nose. I like to close my eyes and exhale, imagining a widening of that space. Like 100 pounds are sitting on my belly and I'm just feeling it compress down. That's the activation of our deep internal muscles, and lower it down. We'll go ahead and go one more like that. Big inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. Pause there, got a little shake going. Big inhale. And exhale, try and widen and flatten. Maybe come up 1 more inch. And then lower it all the way back down to the bottom. All right, so remember our muscles in Pilates work in opposition. They're called a co-contraction. So I want you to flip those palms up to the ceiling again. Feel the shoulder blades down and exhale. Pull the rib cage in against the shoulder blades. That's contracting the upper part. Now I want you to roll that imaginary marble towards the belly button. Widen and flatten that core. Now engage the seat, aka the glutes. Those are the oppositional muscles of those lower abdominals. So keep those 2 pairs firing. Let's draw one knee up into the tabletop and then the other. We're going to be extending our legs and exploring that load into the lower part of our core. So let's go ahead and extend one leg up or out with our exhale and draw it in. I like to be really curious where I feel it when I extend my legs. Does it load into my glutes more? Does it lower into my lower abdominals? Or is it somewhere else? Let's go 2 more pairs. Common places is right into that hip flexor. So the hip flexor is that front of the hip, and then it starts to translate into the low back. So if you feel it in those places, I just want you to open the knees just a bit and tuck the heels in, and that is called external rotation. And that external rotation helps to take those hip flexors off just a bit. Let's go ahead and go last pair. If you feel like it's in your practice, go a little lower. The next time you replay, maybe you decide to challenge yourself and go a little lower each time. All right, last one. Let's go ahead and bring it in. Set one foot down to the floor and set the other. All right, it's time to loosen up anything that's built up. I like to take my arms out to a T because sometimes I feel things build up in my shoulders. And then come to a tippy toe on those toes. And I'm going to allow the knees to roll to one direction, but I'm controlling the movement. I'm trying to make it really slow, like I'm moving through wet cement, and then eyes will gaze towards the opposite hand. Now, same thing. I'm going to try and draw the hip down. So think about initiating from that hip to draw it down rather than lifting the knees. And that's what's going to activate the core versus tax the low back. And then again, pushing through that wet cement the other direction, eyes gazing open. And now I'm going to think about trying to draw my seat down towards the mat. And that's going to activate the oblique and protect that low back. Let's do one more each way. This, in fact, warms our core, but also releases anything that has started to compensate. And bring it center. As always, if this doesn't feel right, pause. Do something else that feels good to your body. And then draw that hip down, bring it back to center. All right, we're going to combine our two moves together as our progression today. If you're not ready for the progression, take it to your favorite, the one that felt the most connected, whether it's toe taps or chest lifts, and do those instead. So remember, we want to roll that marble. I should set that up better. Let's roll that marble towards the belly button. Feel those glutes fire. Shoulder blades down your back. Rib cage draws in, then draw those knees up to tabletop one at a time. All right, inhale there. We're going to chest lift up. Eyes gaze towards those thighs. Now, we're going to explore that extension. I want you to exhale, extend one leg. See if you feel a deeper connection through the core. And draw it on in. And extend the other. I like to really think about my leg being light like a feather. Can you engage the abdominals and your glutes to lighten that leg? I always like to move as if I'm moving through wet cement in both directions. So I'm activating co-contractions through my legs as well. So co-contractions through the legs would be the top of the leg, which is the quad, against the hamstring and glute. So we're trying to push that leg away. And draw it back in. Now, if you feel ready for it, let's do 2 more sets. If you're not ready, go ahead and set down the head and go back into what I call those windshield wipers, or sending those knees in one direction with control and the head in the opposite. I definitely enjoy a challenge, but I have some fun things in my body, like my scoliosis, that not every day is the same. Some days I can really feel connections and my body feels like Superwoman. On other days, something crinks or cracks or just tells me, you know what, this is not a good movement for you today. And so I stay within that space because we always want to move in a way today that allows us to continue our practice tomorrow. And then let's slowly lower one leg down and then the other. All right, we're going to work that out one more time into our windshield wipers. If you're already there, we're going to do one more set. Find that high toe. Let those knees move against that imaginary cement in one direction. Eyes gaze the other. And then we're going to pull the seat down to rotate back to center and gaze the other way. As we're rotating, we're going to take a good inhale there. And exhale, draw the seat down, come back to center. All right, we're moving on to our bridges, which is our hip openers. So if you have any discomfort in the knees, remember first session we had our feet sitting on a chair. Today we're going to progress to the feet on the floor. If you decide it's not for you, go to that version on the chair. Let's go start by spreading out those toes nice and wide and then anchoring them to the floor. I want you to do a chest lift real quick just to make sure that everything is set up. Hands behind the head. Let the head be really heavy. Just kind of loosey-goosey. Loosen it out. Chest lift up. Take a look at those legs. Do they look parallel and right down the center in line with your belly button? I will tell you that when I look down my legs, I can see my legs have walked over to the right a little bit. So I've got to walk my left foot over, my right foot towards the center, and I felt a shifting within my hips. Now, the center of my chest, my belly button, my pubic bone, and the separation of the knee are all in one line. That's where we want to be. All right, hip, knee, and second toe should be in alignment. So if your knees are touching, open them up so that way they're in line with the center of your hip. And then if they're kind of wide or splayed, bring them in like you're squeezing against something until they're in line with that hip. Now that looks pretty good for my body, so I'm going to go ahead and lay back down. All right, palms are going to flip down to the floor, spreading those toes wide. I'm going to try to root through my feet. Feel the big toe side of the ball of my foot, not the actual toe, and then the pinky toe side of the ball of my foot and the center of the heel. So I'm going to take a big inhale there at the bottom. Exhale, press through those feet, and I want to really feel like I'm just pressing into the balls of my feet and the heel, and you'll start to feel an unweighting of your hips. Follow that. Just keep pressing down into the feet and notice how the hips get lighter, more weightless. That's the key to our bridge. Pause at the top. Now, remember that tug of war we played with rib cage against shoulder blades. So I want you to draw your shoulders back and down. Exhale. Pull the ribs in towards you against the shoulder blades. Now, we want to make sure that the marble is not rolled towards our pubic bone. We want to slightly roll it back towards the belly button, and you should feel a whole lot more activation. And let's hinge back down. I want you to feel like you're trying to unweight your feet, like you're trying to lift your feet off the floor. And as you do, you'll feel a lot of controlled activation down to the ground. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just know this comes with time. Try and close your eyes and bring your attention to your feet. Press through the big toe and pinky toe sides, center of the heels. Core stays solid, so try not to round or tip your low half of your belly or pelvis. And start to weight through, like you're trying to squish the bugs or trying to push your feet towards the center of the earth. And as you press down, those hips unweight. And as they unweight, you start to engage those glutes to lift things up. And then at the very top, remember shoulder blades against rib cage. Roll that marble towards the belly button and feel how the seat gets a little more active right at the place where the hamstrings meet the thighs. And we're going to go ahead and try and unweight the feet. As we try and pick the feet up off the earth, the hips slowly come down to the bottom. All right, if you feel that connection, on the next two, I want you to pay attention to something different. I want you to start to pay attention to your knees. Do they wobble in or wobble out as you move? Try and soften that or slow down that movement. So inhale there at the bottom. Exhale, start to weight through your feet. Feel the unweighting of the glutes. Try and squeeze the buns. And remember, we're creating the movement by pressing down. Now, do your knees feel like they're wobbling? If so, pay attention to those feet again. Can you organize rib cage against shoulder blades? Roll that marble towards the belly button, and then we're going to hold this there. Now we're going to play with those knees. If you can't hold it, I totally understand. If it bothers your low back, try and roll that marble towards the belly button a little bit more, and you can come down and just stay where you're at. Otherwise, we're going to imagine trying to press out against an imaginary wall to the right and left sides of your knees. And it's just an inch. Notice how it starts to engage the outer glutes just a bit more. And then now I want you to squeeze in just a bit, just until you feel like your inner thighs firing. And remember, roll that marble towards the belly button if you feel the low back. If you feel your neck, you've lifted too high. Come back down just a bit. Press out into a TheraBand or against walls. Squeeze in like you're squeezing a ball. We'll go one more. Press out into those outer walls or TheraBand. Squeeze in into some walls, and then we're going to hinge back down. Try to unweight the feet. Feel your hips slowly descend down to the bottom. I don't know about you, but I deeply feel your glutes. I feel my glutes, not your glutes. All right, we're gonna do one more. Now, if you wanna progress it, or the next time you do it, the next progression is taking the hands off the floor. I like to bring them up to about 45 degrees over my head. It starts to really contract and control our core activation. So pressing down into those feet. We'll take a big inhale there. Exhale, try and weight through those corners of your feet or that tripod of your feet. Feel those hips start to lift. And as you feel those hips start to lift, I want you to press down harder. Now this time as you come up, can you keep ribs against shoulder blades and that marble rolled towards your belly button the entire time, down all the way up to the top? Now, you will feel your abs kick on just a bit more when your hands are over your head, because instead of allowing the core to sort of be like a suspension bridge, it now has to be a steel cable. Let's come halfway down and squeeze to lift. Be sure to unweight the feet to come halfway down. So think about the mechanism of the movement, not the movement. And then press to those feet and hinge it up. We'll go one more, halfway down, hinge it up, and then make your way all the way back down to the bottom. Good. Now we're going to just release everything. I want you to extend those legs out for a moment, and you may be thinking, that's not what I want for release. Just trust me, just for a moment. And I want you to try and open the knees out wide, like you're trying to roll them open, and then squeeze through the glutes. For me, then I can relax my low back a bit, and it takes things out. So when we stretch it, we're stretching a released low back. And then release, roll the knees inward towards each other. Now squeeze the glutes. We're stretching those hips. And release. Now walk the feet in towards you. Keep going. Bring one knee in, then the other. Now we're going to stretch those hips rather than overstretching the low back. So I want you to open the knees out wide as you can go, and then we're going to circle them around, bringing them back to circles and all the way up. Now, as our workouts get more progressed, and we're going to go slow, so don't worry, just know that this is the best place to release hips and low back, is this hip circle. Motion is the lotion to our joints. And so as we're able to move and mobilize them in all directions, we're able to increase the flexibility and the connections. So just know that there really is nothing in life that moves our body in this same way, besides intimacy. So we want to take time to do it. All right, and just a little nod to intimacy. Strength in our core, glutes, pelvic floor can increase all of the goodness there, but I'll leave that for somebody else. All right, we're going to go ahead and roll over onto our sides and do one more little set here before we give our natural break today. So just like we did last time, tuck our hand underneath our head, making sure the crown of our head, our rib cage, remember shoulder blades against rib cage, and then our pelvis should be neutral. Make sure you're not rolling that marble towards your belly button or towards your pubic bone. Just keep it flat in the center so you're one long line. And that top leg is going to fully extend. As you do, extend that leg in one direction. Crown of the head reaches in opposition, and you're playing tug of war. As you do, that top oblique lifts, rib lifts, top oblique engages, and then we make sure we're staying square and centered here. All right, roll that knee open just a bit today. Like we're trying to roll the knee up towards the ceiling, but don't let that hip roll back. If you find it helpful, you can keep that hand behind your back as you do so. And we're going to do our first set for today, lift and lower. So we're slightly externally rotated right now as we lift and lower. Remember, if there is any sharp stabbing, shooting in your shoulder or your bottom leg, you can stand up and do this in our standing position against the chair or a wall that I showed you last week. And if you don't remember, head back to week 1 and then you can review those options. All right, we're going to go ahead and go 4 more. Remember, we want to feel this in the corner of our glute, meaning the kind of corner of our bottom here. That's our gluteus medius, and when it gets weak, we tend to have internally rotated knees, maybe some knee issues start to pop up, maybe some hip stuff, maybe our low back. It can even translate to shoulder and ankle. Our body is so intelligently designed. Our body will compensate when other things aren't working. Let's pause at the top, and then we're going to go tiny little lifts. Squeeze and release. Now, if you can't seem to squeeze that muscle, soften the knee a bit. It makes it a little shorter, or you can bring it in, bending that knee, and add a little lift and lower. So you go to where it feels right to you. We'll go 3 and 2, and 1. Go ahead and bring it into rest. Now, if you're not ready to rest today, keep going. And the second time, third time, maybe fourth time you do it, go ahead and keep going through this position, through the break. All right, we're going to go ahead and extend that leg again. And as we extend it, we're going to engage the glute to draw it backwards. Now, I want you to open the hip, not arch the back. So we want to keep those ribs against the shoulder blades, that marble towards the center, and I just want you to squeeze like you're trying to pinch a pencil right at the fold of the glute. And now you're going to lift in a back diagonal. So I'm going to just take my hand behind my hips because mine likes to roll. So in that back diagonal, I'm really trying to pinch the pencil right in the corner part of that crease. This is going to help lift and shape the corner of the glute. It also makes that glute med just a bit stronger. And we'll go 4 more. Glute med is my slang for gluteus medius, if you're wondering. And we'll go 2 more. Woo. And last one. Perfect. Bring it on in. We've got one more thing to do, and then we'll switch to the other side. And that's our clams. We're going to keep building on those clams. Make sure the crown of your head, shoulder blades against rib cage, neutral marble here, neutral spine. Activation through the core, lifting of the rib, elongating the oblique is there. Now bottom leg can stay anchored, and we can start to lift and lower like we did last time. Or we can elevate those heels and activate that inner thigh. Try to keep that heel lifted like a platform for your top leg. If you're feeling any sort of discomfort, you can grab your towels, keep going, and you remember you can tuck it underneath the hip to keep everything lifted and elongated. Oh, that feels great. I'm going to keep it there today. All right, now as you continue to lift, I want you to think about lifting away from you rather than just up towards the ceiling, and keep your body in opposition. So I'm just going to keep my hand up over my head because for me, that's a reminder to keep things active. So if you're there in your practice, go for it. If you need the stability, keep that hand or fingertips to the floor. And we'll go 1 more, and then tiny little pulses. We've got 5, 4, and last one. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and come up to a seated position, and we're going to stretch. So if this is not a mobile position for your body, you can lay on your back and you can do a figure 4 stretch from week 1. But this is another way that can help us improve our flexibility. So I'm just going to cross my bent knee over the other, and then I want that bottom leg tucked under. Knees, hips, low back don't always love this position. And then I'm going to place my hand on the front of the knee and just sort of lift and rotate. And I'm trying to rotate at the base of my tailbone, not from the middle of your back. So try and keep the upper trunk neutral, and we're rotating right at the hips or the base. And if you do yoga and you have another stretch you prefer, you can kind of see the nod of where I'm going here. Last good deep breath. Feels amazing through my sticky hip. And come back to center, and we'll roll to the other side. So you can take that towel, tuck it underneath the hip again, if that's for you, or you can progress by taking it out. So I always say a progression is really not a true progression. It's what's right for your body. So because my hips like to roll, I find anything that's going to keep me square keeps me in the right muscle. So if it keeps me in the right muscle, then I'm working appropriately for my body. It's not about strength. It's about connection. All right, so I want you to reach the crown of the head in one direction, toe in the other, and lengthen that entire midline. Rib cage against shoulder blades, lower abdominals against glutes. Roll that knee up towards the ceiling, and we're going into that lift and lower. So I always like to check because this is my rotation side. So it likes to rotate just a bit more than the other side. And remember, we want to feel it in that gluteus medius. And here's another trick. If you like to rotate, your body likes to rotate like mine, you can find the bottom of the rib cage with the thumb, top of the hip with the finger, and if they're off center, like kind of cockeyed, if you will, you can kind of pull them back into alignment with each other, and then you get a deeper connection. So that's one of my best tips for those who rotate like I do. Woo. And I'm starting to feel that connection. Hopefully you are too. Our natural resting space is going to be after we even out. And then if you want to hang for a harder plank series, not plank series, not yet, ab series, you can hang in the second half. We'll go 4 more. And 3, 2. Now remember, hold it up there. Find that more challenging space for you. Remember, you can bend that knee if you need to, and we're going to tiny lift. This side, I am going to bend my knee because that's where I'm going to feel greater connections. I was starting to lose the feeling of that muscle, and I started to feel it down the outside of my thigh. I'm back in that muscle. 2 more. And 1. So stay curious and rest. If you lose the muscle that I am telling you to feel it in, play with the angles. Maybe soften the knees. Maybe pause, reset. Maybe that's the end of the series for you today. So we should always feel it in that space. All right, realign. Shoulder blades against rib cage. Neutral spine. Make sure that marble isn't rolled to your belly button or towards the pubic bone. And then we're going to lengthen that leg away. Remember, crown of the head reaches. Now we're going to open up that hip, engage that glute fold. Open up that front of the hip, but don't arch through the back. Keep things connected. Lift up towards the back diagonal. We're trying to feel it in that glute fold, or I had a girlfriend call it a bathigh, right where your butt meets your thigh, or your hamstring connects or ties into your glute. So whatever imagery helps you connect is the perfect imagery. This one's a little tinier on this side. So just know too, your second side is always going to be harder than your first side. So every time you play this, you should start on the different side the next time you play the workout, because you're going to notice things feel a bit different. We'll go last one. Woo, bring it in and rest. All right, so our heels should be in line with our tailbone. Tailbone reaching towards the heels. Neutral spine, ribs against shoulder blades, going into that clam. So you can leave that bottom leg down, or you can lift and activate. So you want to create a foundation where that bottom heel is pressing up and you're not tucking to lift. So you just want to kind of rotate from that hip, and you want to reach that knee away. I find that working in front of a mirror is really helpful for alignment. And I know that often women have a hard time looking in the mirror, in different phases of their journey. And this is where I learned how to look at myself in the mirror again. I was curious about my body so I could find a pain-free range. And I was able to focus just on where I was supposed to look. I could focus just on that hip, and I started to look at myself again. And for me, that was a huge piece of my journey back to self-love. So we'll go ahead and go 1 more, and then go ahead and rest it on down. Let's come up and stretch again. And if you want to roll onto your back again for the figure 4 stretch, go there. Otherwise, cross that top leg. Make sure bottom leg is bent under as far as it feels good. Try to root that hip down. Top hand on the knee and kind of pull up and rotate. So again, if it's sharp, stabbing, or shooting, stop. Come back to something that felt good. Maybe you go to the position we did on week 1 and stretch there. You can also move that seated into a chair. So you could do a seated figure 4 stretch as well. Last good deep breath. And come back to center. All right, now this is the ending point for you today. It was awesome to have you, and you can tune back in and keep building on that strength. And if you're going to stay, we're moving back onto our backs and we're adding on to our ab series. Now, if you're feeling a little fatigue in the low back or your abs are like, oh, really more, go ahead and grab those towels and bring yourself into that supported neutral. So that towel right underneath the rib cage, so you can pull them in and down to the towel. That towel right underneath the natural low back. Remember, you can always move that further down to your tailbone to get more support into tabletop. All right, shimmy those palms up towards the ceiling. We'll bring one knee into tabletop, then the other, and just notice, can we be here? Do you feel strong enough to be here? If not, go back into marches. Doesn't mean you have to call it quits. Just go into what feels right to you. All right, we're gonna start with a double leg toe tap exploration. So I want you to really engage the glutes against those abdominals. Roll that marble towards the belly button. Ribs draw in against the shoulder blades. And we're gonna hinge at those hips only as far as we can go without losing any of those connections. And then draw it back in. We're going to do 4. At any time your body says no thank you, you pause. That's it for you today. Each time you do this, you explore a greater range of motion. So this is number 3 for me, and I'm noticing that I get a little shake and quake down at the bottom, and that's where I'm just gonna pause before I come back up. So just like before, we wanna move through wet cement in both directions. If you always think I'm moving through wet cement, you're gonna find the co-contractions without thinking, I have to fire my glutes and my hamstrings and my quads. Just give yourself the imagery. Now pull the knees in towards your chest after number 4. And if it feels good, I want you to just circle your shins on the ceiling. This is a nice rotation into the lower part of that lumbar spine sacrum area. I like the massage some days. Some days it feels like pressure. And so if I feel pressure, even though it feels good in the moment, I know that I'll pay for that later. So I only go through movements that feel fluid for my body. All right, we are going into a crisscross here. So let's set our feet down to the floor. Let's build our way in. It's better for our oblique connection anyways than just popping right into the movement. Bring our hands behind our head, shoulders back and down. We're gonna exhale, come up and into that chest lift. Pause, pull your chin in towards your throat, lengthen through the crown of your head, and try and exhale, come up 1 more inch. Now, we're gonna take the right armpit across towards the left hip without folding your elbows in towards your eyes. And inhale, come back to chest lift. And let's go same side. Exhale, armpit towards the hip. Inhale, lower back down. And exhale, come up, armpit towards the hip, lower back down. We'll go 2 more. And then last one. As you come back to center, notice, do your knees have to rock back to center? Lower it all the way back down. Ideally, our knees and our hips don't change position in that movement. So let's come up the other side. Engage the glutes, shoulders down, exhale, chest lift up. Pause, pull the chin in towards your throat. Take the other armpit across to the other hip. Inhale, come back just to your chest lift or all the way to the bottom. And then come up 1 more inch, take that armpit towards the hip. So I like to say this is my fun side. It's a changing of words that I started using that helped me start to love my body again. So I call things either interesting or fun. We've got 3 more. When I'm referring to the sides that maybe just don't move in the same way as the other, or not in the way that I expect. We'll go 2 more. And I call them fun or interesting because it piques my curiosity. And so I'm telling my body, last one, that I love it, even though it's not doing what I think it should do. Layer it back down. Good. All right, let's work out anything that builds up. You can hug those knees into your chest again. And so when we reframe our language, it to our body. And I will tell you, in my 80-pound journey of weight loss, in troubleshooting my really interesting movements of my body, see, I still call it interesting, I have learned to change and keep that language consistently positive. And interesting for me feels like a benign word. So in the beginning, interesting was part of my like interesting, but I don't like it. And now it's become interesting, but I do like it. All right, hands on top of those shins, chest lift up. So your words can change over time in meaning and context, but do just try to change your words. All right, so my hands are on top of my shins. I'm trying to pull myself up just a bit more past that sticking point. I feel like I'm levering up right on the towel, and that's that perfect moment. So maybe you just stay here and you breathe, and that's perfect for today. So I'm going to take one more good deep breath. I'm going to take my left hand behind my head, and I'm just going to extend that left leg. Keeping my oppositional pressure into my right knee. And draw it in. I'm going to do 2 there and then switch. Believe it or not, you're working your obliques in this motion. You're creating the co-contractions on the backside. And then last one that you're going to need for that optimal movement. Bring it back in, hug those shins in, wrap your hand back behind your head. And let's extend that leg. Next day's walk. And I'm really trying to pull my hand into my shin and then push my shin into my hand. And then draw it back in. And extend. For me, this side I have to go a little slower because sometimes that hip wants to pop when my glute turns off. So I know that if my hip is popping, my glute has turned off. So I tell my clients to memorize weird. When you find something that you're like, that just feels weird, but it stops cracking, popping, or feeling yucky, that is optimal alignment. And then we're going to go ahead and bring it in, set it down. All right, one last progression, and we're going to stretch it out today. All right, let's go ahead and put it together. Hands on top of those shins. Big inhale there. Exhale, chest lift up. Pull those shoulders back and down. Rib cage against shoulder blades. Press those shins into the hands. Allow yourself to chest lift up just a bit more. Engage the glutes. Hollow the deep belly against those glutes. Wrap your hands back behind your head for support. Shoulders back and down. Now let's extend that right leg. Feel that glute support. You're pushing through wet cement. Take your right armpit across towards your left hip and then draw it back to center. Now draw that shoulder blade back. Draw the knee back through wet cement. Come back to center. Let's do that one more time. Come up just a bit more. Now press through that wet cement. Take that armpit across towards your opposite hip. And then draw it back to center. And even out. Good. Set it down. Give yourself a break. If you want to do one more in that space, go for it. Exhale, chest lift up. Other side. Shoulders against ribs. Glutes against abs. Press that left leg through the mud, taking that left armpit across towards your right hip. And then inhale, draw it center. Remember, that leg is light. And exhale, we make it lighter by creating more connections with our muscles. Let's see how light that leg can feel. And draw it back to center. Draw that shoulder blade back. Go ahead and bring it on in and down. And you did it. If you needed to do one more to even out, go for it. Rocking right to left. All right, it's time to come up to stretch out. If you are working on your roll up, chest lift up, roll it on up. If it's not quite in your practice today, just come up with whatever feels good to your body. All right, we're going into just a split stretch to finish us out. I love a split stretch because it's a really great hip opener. So let's roll the knees and toes up towards the ceiling. And if you need to, you can hike those hips underneath you. You can also use towels to prop yourself up on the sits bones to take away pressure out of your hamstrings or your low back. All right, sitting up nice and tall. I'm gonna curl down through my chin. Walk those fingertips out. Enjoy the stretch through my spine. Flattening out through the back. Try not to let the knees roll in or follow. I'm pressing them backwards. one more. Now as you walk yourself over to the right leg, I want you to take that arm up and over that right leg. Rotate to a comfortable position. I like to tuck my hands underneath my calves and lengthen through the spine to get a little deeper stretch. Now, as you guys are finishing out our stretches, I just want you to remind you that if you need any personalized assistance or some deeper tutorials for any of our movements, then we can walk the other way across. I do have a bunch of tutorials out on my website, corporatehippieconnection.com, and you can take a look at all of the other amazing tools that we have for you on your journey towards self-love. So I want to thank you guys for coming today as we finish out our last good deep breath. And I just again want to really encourage this journey. Self-care is how we honor the body we're given. Self-care is self-love. Self-love is how we have more of ourselves to give others. And I want you to know today that you are worth it. You are worth every moment that you're putting into yourself. So with that, thank you so much for coming and have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy doing this workout 2 to 3 more times in preparation for our week number 3. Thank you so much and have a wonderful, glorious day full of self-love, positivity, and care.